Hello, Keith Rucker at VintageMachinery.org. Well, I think I'm going to start a new series, another restoration project here. When we picked up the Monarch lathe a couple of weeks ago, I was able to get two Kalamazoo band saws here for metal cutting. Both of them have issues. Both of them are missing parts, what have you. But I believe that between the two, I'm going to be able to make one good saw. So I think what I'm going to do, I've done a quick just looking over the machines. Overall, this one appears to be the better of the two, although I know that we're missing some parts. I'm going to have to scavenge off the other one. But I think what we're going to do is go ahead and start tearing this one down. Basically, we want to take this thing completely apart. I want to see what's missing, see what we need to try to find, find some parts that I need. If I need anything, I'm not sure what I'm going to need. But part one is just going to be tearing this machine down. So anyway, let's get into it and see what we come up with. I have not even really studied this thing yet. We're just going to go into it and start taking parts off. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is work on getting this cover off. This, of course, is just the guard that bends down, and we got some hinges on here. Got some flathead screws. So got my screwdriver. Okay, so tip here, guys. That's not coming out easily, and I don't want to strip this screw out. Stripping that screw out will not be fun, and it'll just make things worse. So before I go any farther, I'm going to do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to grab some penetrating oil. Squirt those down. Let me go ahead and get the other side while I'm at it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, instead of trying to just loosen it up with a screwdriver, I've got this little tool here. It's basically a, they call it a hammer wrench. It's made of what this one's called, but basically it's got a 3/8 inch socket on here. You can put sockets on it or whatever. I've got a little adapter. I've just got a screwdriver bit in here. And basically what you do is you hit this with a hammer and it will move that around. And what's good about this is that when you hit it with that hammer, you're hopefully keeping it well engaged in there, so you're not going to really run as good of a chance of stripping the top off. I say that, and I'll probably do it here. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to tap it a couple of times, and I see it moving. It has moved ever so slightly. So now I'm going to put my screwdriver in here, and boom, it comes right out. So that little shock in there. And again, I'm not just hitting straight down on it. When I hit down on that, it's actually loosening it up, and I can adjust that to either loosen or tighten. I had it in the loosen mode there just then. So that one comes out. Let's see what this one will do. Okay, I think that one's going to come out without any trouble. And let's see what the next one's going to do. Okay, it's in there tight, so again, we'll take this little hammer wrench, get that in there. Let's see if that loosened up. A lot of times, all you got to do is do that a time or two, and the shock of it will just loosen it right up. All right, that side is off. I'll do the same on the other side, and we can get this piece off. All right, next I think I'm going to take off this wheel. So this one here has just got bearings in it, and the bearings actually feel pretty good. I will probably just end up replacing those. So let's, oh good, that's not going to be a trouble getting off. You can tell this has been into because this nut, unless the other side's the same way, that side there should be down. You see it's got the flat machined on it. That should have been the top, but no big deal. Those bearings actually look pretty darn good. They may not be that old, but all right. So now, tell you what, let me Put a little oil down in there. Got a little 3-sided gear puller on here. Yeah, that's gonna make easy work of it. Nice even pressure. Pulls it right off. It's actually pretty tight on there. Those inner bores on those bearings are I mean, they'll drive on there, but I don't know that I'd call them a press fit, but they don't just slip on. So, which that's probably good for a bearing. That's probably exactly what you want. So that's got that off. All right, so we're going to try to take this gear off next. I got to get this nut off right here. So this one is fixed. So the motor comes into here. There's a gearbox back here. It reduces it down. So this one is not going to free spin. It's actually probably keyed onto that shaft. And I need to get it off. It is on the gearbox. What I'm going to do is I've got a piece of wood here. Just a piece of scrap that I had. It fits kind of back in there. I'm going to put that in there to hopefully, so I'm not putting all the pressure on the gearbox. Hopefully that right there will keep this shaft from spinning around. And I've got a big wrench here. And let's see if we can get this thing to come off. That is on there. All right. So, heat. Let's put some heat on it. So again, I'm putting heat. I'm trying to apply most of the heat around that nut. The idea here is that if it heats up, it's going to expand. And if we can do it, just get the heat mostly on the nut should expand more than the screw on the inside. And in theory, that should loosen it up. Let's see how lucky we are. Sometimes it takes a lot of heat to get these things to move. I'd rather not have to put a lot of heat on it, but it's still not budging, so let's put a little more. So I know somebody out there is asking, is that a left-hand thread? I can actually see the top thread coming off of here. It's definitely right-handed, so I should be going the right way with this. All right, let's. Man, I may have to come up with a plan B on that. That is on there. Well, I looked around to see if I had an impact socket that big, and without having to go buy one, I didn't. So I said, I'm gonna put a little shock on this. So I got my lead hammer, and I started beating on it a little bit, and it didn't take much. It came on loose, so I think we're good there. Let's go ahead and just take this all the way off. I would just reach in there and grab that, but that nut is hot. So I'll tell you what, let me go grab a pair of gloves. All right, how about a rag? That one's off. And now let's pull this hub off. Well, just like before, we'll use the gear puller to put nice even pressure on it, and it's coming right off. This pulley's a little bit on the warm side. It's not terribly hot. I'd probably be fine, but I'd grab a rag so it doesn't get too hot on me. There we go. So interesting, it's got a Woodruff keyhole in there, but there wasn't a Woodruff key in it. So it was just on there with tension. So that's one thing we'll definitely need to fix. I'm also noticing here that over the years, it has literally cut a hole all the way through this back casting. So I'm gonna have to look at that. Probably what I'm going to end up doing is brazing that up, welding it, brazing it, whatever, and just get that filled back in, get it solid. That's just where the bandsaw blades haven't tracked right on this pulley, and they've actually ran that in there and cut a hole all the way around. Well, not quite all the way around, but that should be a fairly easy fix. Just take some time. All right, let's continue pulling this thing apart. All right, next I think I'm going to take this cross bracket off here. This is where a track, basically, there's two pieces that come down that have blade guides on them. This one is missing on, but we have those parts on the other saw, so I'll salvage those off that other machine. So got 4 bolts here, 9/16. Good, they look like they're going to come out easy. Maybe they'll all come out that way. Let's see. All right, and it's got a couple of pins down there on the bottom to index that in place. So hopefully we didn't bend those. I don't think we did. I tried to pull them straight out. We got a little belt guard over here, and there's just a nut holding this on. So this saw's got a fairly new bow door. That's a 1 horsepower, and what is this? I believe that's a single phase, 1 horsepower single phase motor. It looks like it's in good shape. I haven't tested it or anything, but we're gonna go ahead and pull this off. I'm gonna go get another 1/2-inch wrench. So I just pulled this gearbox off. There was basically just 2 bolts that held it in place, and one was here and one was here. There's also 2 set screws up underneath here where basically you can adjust this, get that pulley up here running true. So it has built-in adjustment to get it running like you want to. Anyway, that's off. Let me go put it over here on the table. So now I think we're going to take the whole casting, the frame here off. Looks like there's 6 bolts, 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top. And I believe those are 9/16. They are. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off. So let me show you what I'm seeing here. In addition to those bolts, there's also 2 pins on the top and 2 on the bottom that are holding this in place. So it's not gonna come out. I was getting ready to start trying to tap it loose, and I saw those. So I'm gonna hold off on that. We're probably gonna have to take it off the hinge down here and then pull those pieces off. So I want to take this bracket off right here. There's a pin, a hinge pin that goes all the way through this. There's 2 set screws holding this on. So we're gonna, yeah, that's gonna come right out. Take these right off. That one's loose. I've got a brass drift here. We're going to see if we can just knock this pin out, at least to get it off of this side where we can get the bracket off. So I've got a hammer and again a brass drift here to just keep from damaging anything. And it looks like it's going. All right, it's moving. It's already come out about 3/8 of an inch. See if I can knock these pins back. All right, I've got a little separation in there now. And see if I can drive that up a little bit more. All right. All right, that bracket's off. And I think this is going to come right off now. It does. All right, I'm going to see about, all right, that looks like it may just come on off. It'd be great if it does. Great, okay. And the spring's broken. We're going to have to get a new spring for this. This just put some tension on that whole bracket. Right now there's none on there at all. So let me take that off. See if I can drive that on out the rest of the way. With any luck, this should come a lot easier now that it doesn't have all that tension on it. Took a time out. I got up underneath there. Turns out there's a collar up in the bottom of this thing, and it had a little set screw in it. So that's hopefully why this thing was being so difficult. Let's see if it comes any easier now. There we go. And that collar's trapped in there, but anyway, that comes out. I may end up replacing this because there's obvious wear down here where the spring was on. It probably doesn't matter, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, next we're going to take this back jaw off of the vise. This is a nice little setup because you can rotate this to 45 degrees if you want to cut an angle on this bandsaw. Of course, the other side will adjust the opposite of that so you can clamp things down. So that's a nice feature on this saw to be able to do the 45 cuts. All right, I got that one off the bottom. Wow, that bolt there is all boogered up. And that comes off. All right, this one here, I'm gonna have to get a longer handle. That was really on there. I'm gonna get a pull handle. All right, let's see what we can do now. There it goes. Just need a little more leverage. And that screw mechanism in the bottom just dropped down, but it's fine. So this little angle iron shelf here is not original to this saw. This is a replacement that someone cobbled on here. Nice thing is that my other one back there has got the original casting on it, so we'll put the proper piece back on here. I'll rob it off of that other saw. There's a nut on the back side back here. Yeah, that's going to come right off. All right. I believe that this thing just puts tension on that spring, different levels of tension. All right, there are 4 bolts that hold the top frame down to the legs, and I'm just going to get up under here and we're going to pull these things off, and the top should come right off. One more. Actually, there's not one over there. So that should come up now. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. All right. tell you what, I could probably pick that up, but there's no reason to. I've got an engine hoist. All right, we should be ready to lift this up. I got a sling on there. Let's see if I can level that up a little bit. That's that bushing that was up on the bottom. I got to remember to put that in there before I bolt this thing back together, because it won't go in otherwise. Flip this over. All right, let's get that sling off of there now. Well, I wanted to flip it over, but not quite that way, but it looks like it's all right. All right, so first peek up under the bottom, and it doesn't look bad. So this is the nut that goes in there, and it adjusts the vise on the top, and I can see it's got a bronze half bushing in it. Now there's a square rod in there that basically moves that up and down. So you get this in the right position, and that brass nut should come down where you can slide this, and then you flip a lever over here, and that engages the brass nut. So you got a quick adjust on it. So that's kind of neat. All right, so here's the hand wheel. You can see that's the big end of the tapered pin, and a little indentation there on the bottom. I see. I think that'll at least get it started. And of course, it's going to be stubborn. Wow. Yeah, I'm pretty darn certain that's the big end. All right. Well, guys, gotta love this. I hit on it a couple of times off camera, and the hand wheel busted. Bad news. Good news is, if there is good news, it's been poorly repaired from a previous break. Looks like they tried to weld it with a regular welder, and that is not the proper way to do cast iron. It was barely even stuck. So anyway, I got the pieces. I really was not liking that repair anyway, and this may actually give me a chance to grind out all these old welds and fix this thing where it looks a little bit better. So I'm not too upset about that, because I was gonna deal with that anyway. So now I can get to that easier. All right, let me get a different punch. Well, I ran out of time last week, but I'm back on this again this Saturday. And what we're going to try to do is drill these out. That's what I've decided to do. I think what's happened is that over the years of turning this thing and putting high torque on these, tightening down that jaw, is that we probably have kind of stressed that pin so that it's actually maybe partially sheared where it's not lining up. So I'm just going to drill out basic. I'm not going to drill all the way through. I'm going to drill it on either side, hopefully get that pin out where we can knock it out. So we will drill and ream a new tapered hole later on, so I'm not worried about trying to salvage these holes. Tighten my chuck up. All right, we're going to try to drive this out now. I've just got a punch here, and we're going to come back here and see if we can. Yeah, it's coming. And there we go. So that'll be a project. Hopefully we can get this hand wheel put back together. I'm going to have to do a post-mortem on that and figure out what we can do. But this should now be ready to come on out. Let me reposition the camera. All right, let's see if we can lift this up and get the rod out. Okay, so we got the screw out now. And now this piece here should come off the end, but it's not. There's some gunk on here. Let me get a wire wheel, clean that up, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to take a putty knife here. It's just got a bunch of crud and stuff on this square rod where it looks like it's not wanting to slide over that end. So see if I can get it where I can get it off. And to further help the cause here, we'll put a little WD on there to see if it'll lube. There it comes. All right. So here's the other end of that square rod, and you can see it just turns. And if you look, what does it have? Another stinking tapered pin. So let's see if we can get any luckier knocking this one out. I'm gonna clean that up where I can see what I'm doing a little bit better first. And it looks like it may be moving. It's definitely gone down some. So I was using a tapered punch, and it's only going to go so far, and it's going to jam itself in there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to a drive pin punch, which is it doesn't have a taper to it, so hopefully that will drive it out. It felt like it's coming now. There it goes. I don't think that was tapered. I think that was just a straight pin that was peened over on one end, but we got it out. There we go. It's got that handle off. Looks like it's made out of brass. Cool. Next thing I want to do is pull this little half nut apart and see what kind of shape it's in. It looks like the threads have got pretty good wear to them. All right, so that's the half nut. And yeah, I might see if I can get a new piece of that. And then in the bottom of that, let's get that out if we can. So that's that piece that that square rod goes through, and you see it kind of works like a cam. When it's over that way, this nut's on top of it. When you rotate it, it pushes it up and it engages into that thread. You pull it down, it disengages, and that's just for rapid. So if you got a big piece of metal you need to do, you don't have to unscrew that rod all the way. You just pull it down, it disengages the nuts, you slide it down. When you get it where you want, you push it back up and it engages. So, all right. All right, I flipped the base over here. I wanted to kind of look and see how this thing's put together. And I'm gonna take the legs off. We've got these pieces of channel on here that they put casters on. I like this setup. It really allows this saw to be mobile, but I'm not crazy about the way this looks. I mean, this was just, looks like they just cut it with a cutting torch, cut out some places here, and then they welded the casters in place. And that's my biggest concern, because particularly these swiveling casters, the bearings are gone in these things. They're just rough as can be. I think what I'm gonna do is we're gonna take these off, and I'm just gonna fabricate up a whole new piece down here. Probably make it a little more slimline where it looks a little bit nicer. Get rid of this bulky channel, and put some new casters on here. These are shot. So these runners, we're gonna copy it in the new one, but a little bit nicer and definitely more functional. And I'll bolt my casters on so that if I ever need to replace them, we don't have to get the cutting torch out. Not really cool to weld those things. So I'll do it off camera, but we'll undo these 4 bolts and get the bottom off. Well, here we are. We have a table full of parts and pieces, and this is all ready to be cleaned up, gone through, painted, and put back together. I think my game plan is I've got a friend of mine who has a big industrial grade sandblaster, not a blasting cabinet, but a full-blown sandblaster. I think I'm gonna take all these parts up to him. We're gonna sandblast everything and get it prepped for painting, paint it, and then we'll start putting all this stuff back together and replacing parts and pieces as needed in the process. But there you go. There's one disassembled Kalamazoo band saw, and this will be a fun little project getting this thing back together. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be following up with another video on this a little bit later on.